Welcome back to Sunday Vibes, one and all. This is the show where we answer your questions every single week. You know these two idiots by now, so let's get straight on with it. The first one comes from Jamie_Stone6. He says, with the prospect of 4 or 5 Prem teams reaching the Champions League quarter-finals, is this because English teams have evolved and gotten better, or is the standard across Europe diminished? Pato, you want to kick us off?
Yes, they have got better. Yes, the standard has diminished, but there's also an element of luck here. Okay, so yes, like when you look at the groups that they all got drawn in this season, the only British club who you feel got a real tough draw in the Champions League is Tottenham. Yeah. Like they obviously had Dortmund and Real Madrid, and even then they had a lower quality Dortmund than ever before, and a Real Madrid that was not really at the races. So as a result, all bar Chelsea won their groups. Chelsea actually should have won their group. And as a result, that meant that they all played second place teams in the next round.
Helps.
Now, it looks like Tottenham are going to lock out Juve, which again is probably
the biggest signal of intent.
Yeah, because I still think that Chelsea will probably go out to Barcelona. But yeah, if Tottenham knock out Juve, then that means that they've beaten both of last season's Champions League finalists. And when you look at the quality of manager in the Premier League now is just absolutely absurd, especially when you compare it to the other top leagues around Europe. They can take talent from all those other teams pretty much as they want.
Your Paul Lambert.
Yeah, Lambert. You know,
Hugton.
Hugton.
Allardyce.
I mean, how?
Wow. More like Eddie Wow.
No.
Yeah, I should think. I don't know whether it's just because teams have got lucky. I think that's maybe been.
I'm not saying it's just that, but that obviously plays a part. Like if you get lucky in the group stage, you tend to get luckier in the second round, and then you're suddenly in the quarterfinals, and it looks like a really good year.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say that that we're as good as we were in 2000, sort of 5-6 when we were battering teams, and we had 3 teams in the Champions League semi-finals. I don't think we're quite as good at that, but I think the managerial.
I think we're a year or two away from that though.
Yeah.
Like when you look at Liverpool strengthening.
We're on the precipice.
Yeah, I agree.
Definitely, and it helps when you've got 5 teams in the competition as well, right? With Manchester United having won the Europa League. I mean, that's obvious, but let's just make that point. But I think across Europe's top 5. Outside of the Premier League, there is a shortage of world-class managers, when that's not necessarily been the case in the past. Obviously, Italy has this unbelievable production line that seems to have dried up somewhat outside of maybe Conte. Gasparini's doing a good job at Atalanta. I think Allegri is an unbelievable manager, chronically underrated in my opinion.
Sarri as well.
He won the league with AC Milan not that long ago, and look at them now. They're an absolute mess. Sarri ball at Napoli is irresistible. But you look at Germany, Jupp Heynckes has had to come back, and he's comfortably winning the league, although I think his ability to reinvent himself as a manager is probably somewhat underrated as well.
I think Jupp Heynckes is a fucking amazing manager.
He's a fucking don.
He won the Champions League 20 years ago, won it again then 15 years later, retired, dicked around in retirement, like just in his shed or whatever for 5 years, came back and he's going to win another Bundesliga. Like, what the fuck is going on with Jupp Heynckes?
It feels like
it's like the Madonna of football, mate.
It feels like Germany for coaches is what Ligue 1 is for players. Produce loads of youngsters and then farm them out.
That's true, yeah.
I mean, so Nagelsmann's Hoffenheim aren't faring as well this season.
But he'll still get a big move on it.
Which was to be expected because they got pillaged for their talent. Even Wagner's gone in January. Thomas Tuchel's going to come back in and probably relieve Jupp Heynckes of his duties.
He might come to England.
You've got Herrlich at Leverkusen. Is it Tedesco?
Tedesco at Schalke. Domenico Tedesco.
I think both joint second.
Yeah.
And these aren't guys who are going to get jobs at big clubs. No. I'd go as far to say that even if Zidane was to leave Real Madrid tomorrow, that a Premier League team like Chelsea, if they were to let Conte go, wouldn't exactly be all guns blazing for it.
100%. The managerial talent
even in Spain
is truly astonishing. You're right. I think if you were to lose any other top job in Europe, so like let's say Zidane left, I think probably of the top 5 candidates, 3 of them would be current Premier League managers for pretty much every job. And I think that speaks volumes about how much better the managerial talent is in the Premier League than across the rest of Europe.
Yeah, the defining manager of each of Europe's big leagues is now pretty much in the Premier League. So the defining manager of the last 10 years in Germany is Klopp. He's now in the Prem. It was Guardiola in Spain. He's now in the Prem. Conte in Italy. He's now in the Prem. Mourinho, who's one of the defining managers across Europe, you know, he's now in the Prem as well.
Yeah.
Like, plus, of course, out of nowhere, Pochettino has come along and just proved to be, I think he's the second best coach in the Premier League. He's certainly one of the best in the world now. Like, I'd say that when you think about, maybe this is just about kind of reputation rather than actual quality, because clearly they're a great manager doing great jobs everywhere. But when you think about reputation, the only guy around Europe who's seen as a top tier manager by everyone, who's not in the Premier League probably, is Simeone. Like, he's maybe the only guy, and I still believe he'll end up at Chelsea.
And stylistically, I think some clubs would struggle to kind of force his ethos upon their club.
Yeah, he's more of an Italy or a Chelsea guy than any. Like, you couldn't see Man United taking Simeone.
But this is kind of like pride by proxy as well, right? Because where are all the top level British coaches and even Scottish?
Yeah.
Because managers have been a decent export of both countries for a little while. Who would you say is the most highly rated British manager at current? Not to get all Brexit on your way, but because Jamie Carragher thinks, and I agree with him, that it's Brendan Rodgers. He's found a way to get Rodgers in there. Come on!
It's probably Rodgers. It's probably Rodgers or Graham Potter.
It is hard to disagree with Rodgers, mainly because he's at least competing decently in Europe, and also winning titles and attracting really, really good players.
And he did a good job at Liverpool.
Yeah, he also did a really good job at Liverpool, like you said. But I don't know, there's such a dearth, isn't there? The gap between where English managers are and the top tier is so vast. It's astonishingly vast. But I couldn't say. I don't think there's any really decent managers.
Yeah, I've got to be honest. I mean, like, I don't really give a shit about British managers. So, like, as a result, I don't really know that much. But I mean, Graham Potter. When you watch Östersunds in the Europa League against Arsenal, they are horrifically bad.
Yeah.
And actually, I mean that as a compliment to Graham Potter, because he's got them to the second round of the Europa League where they're playing Arsenal. And they are a side made up of guys that he pinched from clubs like Darlington.
Yeah.
Like, it's absolute bananas.
I don't know if you saw this morning, but the highest paid player Östersund is on 4k a month.
I mean, I think Mesut Ozil earns in a week more than their entire squad does in a month, something like that.
Crazy,
Though in fairness, Mesut Ozil is better than their entire team put together. But as he proved last night. But I don't know, like that. Graham Potter has been really highly rated for a long time, and you'd have thought that at some point, like a mid-table Premier League club will take a shot at him.
But he was linked with the Stoke job, right? And you look at what more does he have to do to get that sort of move? I think maybe he has to go to a championship club.
Or Liga.
Yeah, there are clubs between Östersunds and Stoke.
Yeah, I think maybe it's a championship club though. And you look at the championship, and what more does a Gary Rowett have to do to get a Premier League move?
I mean,
I don't know anything about him.
Be somebody I've heard of, really.
Paul Merson rates him highly.
Yeah, which is never a good sign.
I mean,
to be honest with you.
Look at what Gary Rowett did at Birmingham before the implosion under Zola, and what he's currently doing at Derby is
I'd say he probably has to take that team up, right?
Yeah.
I mean, look at Carvajal, who's just left Sheffield Wednesday. He got a very unfancied Sheffield Wednesday side into the promotion places twice, which was seen as quite a monumental thing to do, and the Swansea hierarchy were able to look past that. Admittedly, he wasn't their first choice, was it? They were able to look past that and say, okay, he's probably got qualities we could use in the Premier League, and that has paid dividends. But whether they would have gone for someone like Rowett over Carvajal is another argument entirely. But maybe Carvajal has more world experience. Again, don't know about his.
I think
his
Stoke really wanted Rowett, and then he signed the new contract at Derby, which
led
to end up going to Paul Lambert. But I think it's going to be a long time before you see an English manager in a top team. I don't think we've heard Eddie Howe talked about in the past. He's a long way off being anywhere near what even like an Arsenal or an Everton would potentially go for. So it'd be interesting to hear your guys' thoughts at home. Why do you think English teams have made a resurgence? What do you think of English and British coaches in the Premier League? What do they need to do to take it to the next level? Should we go to the next question as well?
Yeah,
let's see what it is. Just before we go to our next question, we actually have a brand new segment in Sunday Vibes. Patrick Van Straten, what is it?
It's called FD versus Fans. And basically what we want you to do is to send in your most unpopular football opinion.
Spicy.
So do you have a hot take that gets you mocked by your friends? Send it in to us and we will argue with you. This week, I'm looking at some of your takes and my God, they are hot. They are stingingly hot.
Spicy.
So...
Vindaloo on the arsehole, spicy.
Well, you had to make it disgusting, didn't you?
Well, let's roll with it.
Over to that. Okay, so welcome to this new segment on Sunday Vibes. It's FD versus fans. So I've got some of your unpopular opinions, your hot takes, and your ridiculous arguments here, and I'm going to go through them and tell them whether you're an idiot or whether I agree with you. So first up, we've got Lucas Maurer, and he says, Chelsea would have a Premier League title by now, even without Roman Abramovich's money. I honestly don't know where to start with this. This is just not true. Now, don't get me wrong, Chelsea were improving before Abramovich came along. They've got a tiny stadium. It holds, what, like 35,000 people? It's smaller than Highbury was before Arsenal moved to the Emirates. You were not a destination at the time. Everyone wanted to go to Arsenal back then. Arsenal were the Invincibles. Everybody else wanted to go to Manchester because United were the biggest club in the world. Frankly, I think Chelsea would have been lucky to be a top 4 side. So sorry, Lucas, but no.
Good lost.
Gerardito 2591. The number's important. He says Chicharito is the greatest Man United striker in recent history. Just gonna leave that one, to be honest with you. Like, that's mental. At Tom L. Flanagan, he says Moussa Dembele, the one at Tottenham obviously, is now as overrated as Michael Carrick. That is a dense statement. There's so much to unpack there. Michael Carrick, people go on about him a lot, but at his best he was really, really good. Moussa Dembele is not overrated. He's been underrated his whole career, and it's only recently that people are starting to say, hey, this Moussa Dembele guy is pretty good. No, they're both great. You're an idiot. Moving on. At Axel Angelon, he says, I only put Ronaldo in my top 3 because otherwise people go absolutely mental. Great player. There are better, though. Now, I'm assuming you mean Cristiano Ronaldo, and I can't disagree with this.
Finally.
Cristiano Ronaldo is not one of the 3 best players of all time. He just isn't. Like, I don't see how he can be. Obviously, Messi is miles ahead of the competition, but Ronaldo, he's an amazing goal scorer. He really is. And I'm not playing that down, but he's not much more. And then I find it hard to believe that at least one of the Brazilian Ronaldo, Cruyff, Maradona, Van Basten, that one of these guys was not also better than Ronaldo. Ronaldo's not in the top 3 of all time, despite what he himself may say. George Wright of Football Daily says Lampard is way better than Scholes and Gerrard. Ooh, now the thing is, nobody's ever going to really have a sensible opinion on this because it's kind of based on who you support. If I was ranking them on talent, I'd put Lampard bottom. If I was ranking them on consistency of their career, Lampard is top. Gerrard at his best was absolutely incredible. Scholes at his best was incredible, but people forget that Scholes moved to that deep lying playmaker position where he was one of the best in the world quite late on in his career. Frank Lampard's scoring record, we take it for granted because we all grew up with it, but it is nuts. Like, go to Wikipedia now and look at his career statistics. Frank Lampard had low-key one of the greatest careers of all time. I really strongly believe that, and I say that as somebody who hates Chelsea. I hate Chelsea more than I hate Liverpool or Man United. Chelsea, they're a scum club, but Frank Lampard, great. At Will Brazier from Sporf, he says, has PVS ever used product in his beard? We're talking oils, we're talking lotions, etc. Look, Will, thanks for the inquiry. Yeah, I've used an oil before. I used a Mr. Natty beard elixir, it's called. And at the moment, I use Murdoch's beard moisturizer, which keeps the skin underneath young and supple. So those are my hot recs. And you know what? Go and get a proper trim. Get a hot towel treatment. It's lovely. It's a revelation. So that's FD versus fans for this week. Next week it'll be one of Hamill or Joe or one of the other idiots on our team. So make sure that you're hitting us up with your hot takes and unpopular opinions in the comments below. And who knows, maybe you'll be featured on here with Joe saying your opinion is gopping or something equally stupid.
The next question comes from Andrew Fiedler in the comment section below. If you want to be involved next week, use the hashtag SundayVibes. He says, who is your favourite player to watch currently in world football? Who wants to kick us off?
Ooh.
Hamster?
No caveats to that, is there?
No caveats to start with. We'll put them on as we go.
Is it like no Messi, no Ronaldo?
We'll say obviously no Messi, Ronaldo. That's boring, isn't it?
Okay, and is this currently or all
Currently,
time? I wasn't
currently.
listening, sorry mate.
Currently. Maybe try next time.
Stop wriggling. Fucking hell.
No, someone get him some Ritalin.
Jesus Christ.
The ADHD's
The chair's bumping into my chair. It's bumping into his. What the fuck's the matter with you?
That is like one of your voices, isn't it? Like when
this
when McCubbin
dickhead.
and James sit under the table.
Yeah, but that's
crack legs going.
Yeah, but at least that's
withdrawal.
just addiction. That's fine. They can't help it.
Right.
You just sit still.
Talking of addiction.
Bloody hell.
Who are you addicted to? What? I'm going to go for.
That's a great segue.
That's a lovely segue.
Back on track. Mertens, Insigne, Napoli as a whole.
Yeah.
Alan
Zielinski.
at Napoli.
Rog.
Zielinski's a bit of a don as well.
Alan.
Alan's
I know that's how you should say it, but when you say it like that, you sound like such a dickhead.
he's a little bit like Moussa Dembele in that he just kind of glides past players, and I'm not quite sure how, given his physique.
Yeah, Tanguy Ndombele is in that category as well. He's been really
Ndombele,
fun this season.
Kylian Mbappe.
Yeah.
Neymar completing 11 dribbles a game.
He
Eden Hazard
13
completing
take
6
on
dribbles a
Madrid.
game. Yeah, there's some people that are joyous to watch, and then there's some people that are really technically proficient, and you just think, how are you doing that? Christian Eriksen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just saying names. Does anyone have a more cohesive argument?
I would like to put the
forward?
name Sergio Busquets forward this season.
He is having a stellar season, a renaissance.
We've talked about him in the past. I know you kind of think he's potentially the greatest defensive midfielder of all time.
No, I think he is the greatest
Yeah,
defensive midfielder
I
of
would
all time.
put him in the top 3. But his ability to play the ball vertically and split the lines this season is harrowing. Harrowing to watch at times. He also has this thing that I love watching with Sergio Busquets.
He's just learnt the word, but not very thoroughly.
Which word?
Harrowing.
Harrowing, yeah. I love the one thing I love about Busquets is his kind of fake passes where he looks like he's spraying the ball out to a winger, and then kind of inverts it and cuts across it, and it pings straight into the feet of the number 10. The whole team is shifted to the winger.
I think a great example of that is that first goal against Real Madrid in the second half of El Clasico, when Barcelona just took control of that match and they were able to break thanks to a perfectly weighted Sergio Busquets pass straight down the middle of the park.
And it's always a fake, and it goes straight into the feet, and it's hit so clean. Ping. Michael Carrick used to do it fantastically for Manchester United, and it's such an underrated skill, that ability to split the lines.
And Busquets is kind of like Carrick in that neither one of them has any great athletic ability.
Yeah.
Like, you don't look at them and really see an athlete, but what you see is just like there's a real kind of like cool intellect behind everything. Like everything he does is considered.
So
like,
calm.
You know,
and he misdirection. It's definitely
it's
that.
the
It's
apex
amazing.
of cool football now, because it was Xabi Alonso, obviously.
Yeah.
But Toni Kroos.
Yeah.
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 Tony
He's an
Kroos.
aesthetically pleasing
I
player
love
to watch. Isn't
when
he?
a
That steered
player
finish.
passes the ball into the net like he does. It's glorious to watch, isn't it?
Thiago Alcantara for me is that, like, I mean, I think all my favourite players have always been kind of box-to-box midfielders, like, because it's just so exciting to watch someone snap into a tackle and then run 30 yards and beat a guy out of field. So I like Modric and Kovacic, I like Pogba, I like Arturo Vidal, these different styles of that player.
Who'd you have gone for? Peak Yaya, Peak Gerrard?
Pete Yaya. Pete
What
Yaya,
about you?
Pete Yaya,
Gerrard.
Pete Yaya every day.
Gerrard.
Every day.
Yeah.
I think Gerrard had more peaks, though.
I would have gone for Pete Gerrard.
Just on the subject of box
He's
to
a,
box.
he's a dickhead, isn't he? Like, I think actually, if I was thinking about somebody who I've really enjoyed watching this season,
Edison.
Leroy Sané.
Ooh,
Leroy,
yes.
he's so
Good shout.
he's so balanced, and like he's the sort of player who by rights should be a sort of like
Balancer.
5'6", like little like, just like wriggling through spaces. But he's actually massive. He's like 6'1".
Yeah.
He's so fun to. He's
gas
like
as well. Gassy as clay. No,
he's a guy who. I think actually both of his parents were athletes, and he looks like it.
Makes
Like
sense.
he looks like he's
Both my parents were short.
the peak of human evolution. Yeah, mine too.
What about players from outside of the big teams? We've mentioned quite a lot of big hitters there, maybe not surprised anyone. What about people kind of strutting their stuff?
What about your boy Papu? You love Papu.
I love when you call me Big Papu. I love Papu Gomez because I fully appreciate someone who peaks late in life, because it still gives me hope that there's more, to life than this.
Yeah, sure. I agree with you.
I'm very fortunate to be here.
No, this is shit. I hate it.
And any man who wears a Peppa Pig captain's armband is a man who, is a man after my own heart. And he's kind of talismanic, isn't he? I bet he just walks around Atalanta and is like, like Rocky, people just throw him vegetables and fruit in the street. He just eats for free everywhere he goes. He's got the police take him home after a night out. He's got the freedom. Left Bergamo. Other players who I've enjoyed watching for smaller clubs.
Guedes?
Apart from Patrick Roberts, there's
Pulisic.
Pulisic, Guedes.
Yeah, Guedes at Valencia.
Irving Lozano, David Neres at Ajax.
Justin Kluivert at times at Ajax when he drifts in off that left.
I still don't enjoy him that much. I'm
come
still
on.
unsure about him.
So I've enjoyed some of Memphis's goals.
Yeah.
Haven't seen a lot of him on the pitch.
Correa is having a great season for Atletico, and I like that he takes on shots from distance.
Yeah.
Asensio.
I'm pretty much running out of names, to be honest.
Should we go over?
I don't know. I feel like we could just list
on
guys
to the
forever,
next
to be
question?
honest.
Because I feel
Should
like
we go on to the next
this
question?
could last forever.
Should we just flow into the next question?
Oh,
No
daring.
edit point. No edit point here, so this is a risk. If there is an edit point.
Have we even decided the
that
next
means
question?
we f***ed it. No.
Oh my god.
Our final question comes from Callum again on YouTube. He says, who should Tite start at the World Cup? Jesus or Firmino? Hashtag Sunday Vibes. Chris Hamill. Any answer has to be Firmino.
Was that your answer?
Yeah,
Was it?
Firmino.
Any answer has to be Firmino. I think I've mentioned this before. So when Tite arrived, one of his number one objectives was to make Brazil less dependent on Neymar.
Yeah.
Which is why he sort of relinquished the captaincy. He put him in a wide position instead of centre forward. He gambled on Gabi Jesus, and that paid off, didn't it? I think Jesus got 7 or 9 goals in qualification.
Yeah.
One of them maybe in between.
Some odd number.
Yeah. It might have been 7 in 9. I can't remember.
All right.
It's just floating around in the grey matter there somewhere. But also, if you want a forward to do a lot of defensive duties that's going to enable Neymar to float around a little bit a la PSG, then Firmino, Bobby Dazzler's your man, because he makes around 3 tackles and interceptions per game for Liverpool and is used to a lot being asked of him. And he could potentially provide link-up play in a 4-3-3. Tite has tended to mix it up.
Who plays in that 3 then for Brazil? Because I haven't watched a lot of them in qualifying.
If they went 4-3-3, they're not always playing.
If they go 4-3-3.
3-3-3. I'd imagine if they were to deploy that sort of system, you'd have probably Neymar wide left, Gabi Jesus, and then
Coutinho, where does Coutinho fit in?
Willian, maybe?
Maybe Coutinho goes in the hole behind.
Or Willian could potentially be in that midfield 3 as well, couldn't he? But Willian has captained Brazil on a couple of occasions.
Under Tite?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
I don't know if he's been made captain or if he was just in the latest round of friendlies, not sure. But yeah, that's how they potentially line up. They've got a lot of industrious players though, which Tite sort of favours in Renato Augusto, Paulinho, who have performed very well for him. So I'm not sure he'd go 4-3-3. I don't think he's one of these Brazilian managers who goes all out. He's actually found a very good balance in his team.
A lot of options, especially in midfield. Is he going to play Casemiro or is he going to play Fernandinho?
All of a sudden, Fernandinho or Casemiro, I think he's favoured Fernandinho. But all of a sudden he's got a batch of really shit hot young players knocking on the door in Luan, in who's the kid who might go to Barcelona? Arthur.
Fred?
Malcolm. Fred, who were all knocking on the door to make the squad. Fred at Shakhtar.
Maybe Malcolm.
Not Fat Fred. Fat Fred.
Yeah, no longer fat-headed Fred.
Who's kind of like heat map is just the centre. But I don't know what you think, Pate, but I would probably go with Gabi Jesus because I like the traditional number 9 in my Brazilian team.
Yeah, I'd go Gabi Jesus as well because I think there's so much creative power in Coutinho, Neymar, potentially Willian or Malcolm or whoever it is, that I think what you want is a guy who can just move around, who can pull out into the wide areas, essentially find space and just score tap-ins really. Like Gabi Jesus as well, like yes, we could talk about Firmino's defensive work rate, but Man City are the toughest team to pass through in the Premier League by far. They hold the teams playing against them to the lowest pass completion percentage in their own half in the Premier League. And Gabi Jesus, he can pull out into that wide area, so when Neymar moves into the middle, I think that'll work quite nicely. He's faster than Firmino as well. And also he's just, I don't know, this is like a really dumb way to describe it. It just feels like, he feels like more of a Brazilian player. Like
I know what you mean though.
He feels like there's a higher ceiling with him to turn into, Coutinho, Neymar and Gabi Jesus feels like it has more likelihood of turning into Ronaldinho without it.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I would go for Firmino just because I really like his link-up play.
Yeah, he's amazing.
So I would potentially go Firmino. I also really like the way he arrives late in the box. I think it's a really underrated skill that Firmino has. Positionally, and his timing of run always seems to be perfect for the cutback from the byline. So I would potentially go for Firmino. I think that they've got the firepower and...
If you were to play 4-2-3-1 or 4-4-2, would Firmino start for you? Because
as I said, I haven't watched enough of Brazilian qualifying, so I don't know how they play, but I think a front line of Neymar, Firmino and Coutinho is really exciting. Not too much width there, I know, but I think you would just say to Neymar and Coutinho, drift where you want, lads. Don't worry about it. You play where you want, boys. I think they would score so many goals, but it wouldn't necessarily give much width to the team, so that might be a downside. But then when you've got, I don't know if they're still, hopefully they haven't retired, Dani Alves and Marcelo, they provide so much width anyway that you don't necessarily need the classic winger.
Their fullbacks are absolutely staggering. Really.
Yeah.
When you think about, like, say, their left back options, they've got Marcelo, then they've got Alexandro, then they've got Felipe Luis.
Yeah.
Like the depth there is.
And if you look at Marcelo, how high he plays up the pitch at Madrid, you can effectively play without a classic winger. You can kind of play with those inverted wingers and the floating tens in Neymar and Coutinho, with him on one side, Dani Alves on the other, because they push so high. But whether or not Tite does that, I haven't watched enough to give a legitimate answer. But I would go Firmino just based on his form this season.
Going back to what you were saying as well, defence has been their problem for a little while, right? Since the likes of Lucio and then Nielsen sort of hung up their boots. That central defensive position I'm talking about. And now they have Marquinhos and Thiago Silva playing together every week at PSG to a very high level. They've got a very good stable of goalkeepers. Edison, Alisson vying for that #1 spot in previous years.
Having said that, though, they had David Luiz and Thiago Silva at the 2014 World Cup as well, didn't they? Both playing for PSG. But David Luiz, of course, was he suspended? I think he was suspended for the Germany game, wasn't he? That's why he didn't play.
Thiago Silva was.
Yeah, Thiago Silva was, yeah.
David Silva's the expendable in that scenario, right? Like David Silva's been...
David Luiz,
Sorry, David Luiz.
Yeah.
David Silva, don't say that? Probably could, exactly. David Luiz has been great in a back three.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Yeah. It's going to be a really interesting one.
I'd be more inclined to play him as a sort of destroying sentiment.
It's going to be a really interesting one. But who would you start up front for Brazil? There's a poll up there. Click the I button to cast your vote right now. So that's the end of Sunday Vibes this week. What is happening on 90+1? That is disgusting. That is disgusting. Harrowing. Word of the day. What is happening on 90+1?
90+1 facts. We have Harry Kane this week. Yeah, if you want to learn
the tongue.
about him, how he used to be an Arsenal fan, then go over and check that out.
Is the width of his tongue in there as a fact?
No, because we couldn't actually measure it. We couldn't get, that wasn't available to us. But
couldn't find a ruler wide enough.
There's no footage of him speaking during it, so that is a bonus, I think.
Oh, what else is happening on EFD? Sorry, I actually quite like these chairs.
That was Football Mundial. Have you watched FDFC versus Soccer AM yet? There's only 50,000 of you out.
That's not good enough. Come on.
When you say it like that, it sounds like a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, that is like what the average attendance of
Anfield?
Yeah, it's not bad. 50,000 of you watched that.
Wow.
Anyway, bye.
Love you.